You wake up 10,000 years ago with one very specific problem. Your food keeps trying to become somebody else's food. Meat turns suspicious by tomorrow. Berries collapse into purple regret. Milk is not really a thing yet, which is probably for the best because you have no way to keep it cold anyway. Then somebody hands you a modern refrigerator. It hums. Its little light comes on. Inside is a shelf, a drawer, and a temperature that treats the desert like a personal insult. Great. You own the only fridge in prehistory for about 6 hours. The plug is attached to nothing. The compressor needs electricity. The electricity needs a generator. The generator needs metal, magnets, wire, insulation, precision tools, and enough people who will not abandon the project halfway through because a mammoth has appeared nearby. So you put the fridge away for a moment and work backward. Still a few thousand years from leftovers. First, you need cold. That sounds easy until you try to order winter. A cave stays cool, but cool is not refrigerator cold. A stream helps, until somebody upstream washes a dead animal in it. Snow works if you live near snow and do not mind your entire food preservation strategy, depending on a mountain being in a good mood. People eventually get very good at cheating summer with winter. Much later, Persian builders make yakhchals, deep ice storage structures with thick insulating walls and shaded basins. In the right dry climate, thin layers of water freeze on cold nights. Workers stack the ice underground and keep it for hot weather. That is a remarkable refrigerator, right up until you ask it to operate beside a tropical hunter-gatherer camp in July. You need a cold box that makes its own cold, that requires a sealed loop full of a fluid willing to do something strange. When a liquid evaporates, it steals heat. Sweat does this on your skin. Alcohol does it even faster. The trick is getting a fluid to evaporate inside the box, then forcing it back into a liquid somewhere else, over and over, forever. Now you need pressure. Pressure means a pump. Your first pump is probably leather, wood, and a person discovering that pumping a handle for 10 minutes is less fun than hunting. It leaks at every seam. The valves stick. The pressure disappears through a crack so small you can barely see it. So you need better seals. Wax helps for a while. Resin helps until the day gets hot. Leather gaskets work until they dry out. You begin to understand why modern appliances contain so many boring little rings. Every one of those rings exists because somebody once built a brilliant machine that quietly breathed all of its working fluid into the room. Still no fridge. Next comes metal. Stone can make a sharp edge. It cannot make a thin, leak-free tube that survives pressure. You need copper or iron, then furnaces hot enough to work it, then hammers, molds, files, drills, and people who can make the same part twice. A refrigerator is not one invention. It is a tiny factory pretending to be a cupboard. You get a metal pump. It clanks like a trapped goat, but it compresses your fluid. Compression heats it up. That sounds backwards, until you notice the point. The hot compressed fluid can dump its heat outside the box through a coil, then it passes through a narrow restriction. Pressure drops, it evaporates inside the cabinet, and it takes heat with it. Your food compartment is cold for 11 seconds. The box itself is built from wood, which leaks heat like a gossip leaks secrets. You need insulation, layers that slow heat down. Straw, felt, cork, dry fiber, animal hair, trapped air. Ancient people already understand that wrapping a thing can preserve warmth or cold. The fridge just turns that old survival lesson into an extremely expensive wooden cabinet. You line the walls, you make a door. The door does not fit. You shave it. It fits too well. And the first person to open it pulls the whole cabinet over. You add hinges. The hinges rust. You improve the hinges. Civilization is briefly delayed because everyone is arguing about door hardware. Then comes electricity. You can run an early cooling machine with muscle, water, wind, or a fuel-fired engine. But the familiar fridge compressor wants steady power. So you build a generator, spinning coils and magnets, then wire fine enough to carry current without turning into a hot rope. You need insulation around that wire because an electrical system that sparks beside a storage shed full of dry grass is really just a ceremonial way to lose the storage shed. At last, the compressor turns. The coil's warm outside. The inner coil frosts. A bowl of water inside the cabinet begins to gather a skin of ice. Nobody cheers at first. They stand around it, waiting for the trick to stop. By morning, there is ice in the bowl. You have built a refrigerator 10,000 years too early. Now the dangerous part begins, because every person in camp has an opinion about who gets to put what in it. The first thing stored in the fridge is not medicine, seed stock, or a carefully planned emergency ration. It is somebody's favorite berries. They place them on the top shelf, tell nobody, and return after gathering to find that their cousin has moved them behind a fish because that part was colder. The cousin denies this while standing next to a bowl of berries with purple fingers. Within a week, the fridge has rules. No raw meat above the roots. No wet hides anywhere near the cold coil. No leaving the door open while deciding whether you are hungry. And if you put a personal item on the middle shelf, you must mark it with your clan symbol. This creates the first refrigerator bureaucracy. The person assigned to enforce it is named Tala because she has the patience of a stone wall and because she once caught a man storing a half-finished spear inside to keep the wood fresh. Tala does not yell. She simply removes the spear, places it outside, and writes nothing down because writing has not been invented yet. Everyone still knows exactly what happened. The fridge changes dating almost immediately. Before refrigeration, bringing somebody food means carrying it over before it spoils. Now a young hunter can save the best piece of roast for 2 days, then arrive at a crush's shelter with a cold wrapped parcel and a confidence that has never survived contact with another human being. The recipient opens it. Inside is fish. Very nice fish. Very thoughtfully chilled fish. Also fish. The whole camp spends the evening debating whether this counts as romance, a threat, or an attempt to secure a fishing alliance. Children discover the freezer drawer next. They do not understand ice cubes. They understand tiny forbidden rocks that hurt your teeth in a fascinating way. One child puts a beetle in a cup of water and hides it in the back. Another child leaves a carved bone toy in the freezer and cries when it comes out too cold to hold. Adults respond by making the fridge taller. This is the first appliance upgrade in history, driven entirely by children and beetles. Then somebody discovers leftovers. That is a much bigger cultural shock than the machine itself. A camp meal used to be an event with a hard ending. Food gets cooked, people eat, scraps get shared, carried away, dried, buried, fed to dogs, or regretted. The fridge introduces a new sentence. I am saving this for tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes strangely powerful. Someone starts hiding a good stew behind a clay jar. Somebody else claims they were saving it too. Tala is called over. She opens the fridge, looks at 2 identical containers, and realizes the camp now needs ownership law. The first legal dispute over chilled stew lasts longer than the stew would have lasted without refrigeration. And that is how ancient people get a fridge. They do not use it to conquer kingdoms. They use it to save berries, make gifts awkward, preserve dinner, and accuse relatives of stealing fish, which is probably the most human outcome possible. The machine that took furnaces, pumps, metalwork, insulation, power, and an entire village of stubborn specialists ends up holding one bowl of leftovers that nobody admits to owning. Subscribe before Tala makes a rule about it.